Hey friends, this beautiful buffet behind me is part of a Lexington dining room set of a coworker's. She didn't need this particular piece of the set, so she offered it to me and sold it to me for $60. Now, I even hesitated to put paint on it because it's so pretty. And recently I received a comment from someone obviously out of the country who said, "You people in the US just love to slather paint on pieces, you don't appreciate it in its original state." So with you in mind, I did put it on the market. It's been over 2 weeks and I've received 0 bites, so it's getting painted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the hardware and then I'm gonna give it a good cleaning and I'll rinse it with clean water. It's not really dirty. I just wanna make sure there's no oily residue from fingerprints or whatnot on it. Now while I do that, I wanna tell you a little bit about it. The top opens up to create a larger surface area for serving food off of. And that surface is a laminate type of material. So it's waterproof, which is why I think this would make an amazing beverage bar, either for cocktails or coffee. Now, as you can see, this piece has a very glossy top coat, and I'm definitely going to need to scuff sand this in order to create those little micro scratches in the wood. Otherwise, the primer and the paint will have a hard time gripping onto it. So I'm going to be scuff sanding a little bit with probably 150. I wanted to explain this blue tape. I've done my best to tape and protect the inner parts of it so that when I go to paint, the paint won't seep through here and get on this surface. Now this does have a trim of wood here that I'll need to paint, but and I'll scuff sand that too. So let me get my sander out. I'm going to be using a foam abrasive pad, and I'll need to do these sections by hand. I'm scuff sanding with a 150 grit. My sander is connected to a dry vac that's extracting some of the dust so I can sand indoors. And when you scuff sand, you don't want to apply much pressure at all. I'm not sanding down to bare wood. I'm simply scratching the surface to create that micro texture for the primer and paint to stick to. I dusted off all the excess dust and then wiped the rest off with a tack cloth. I decided it would be easiest to prime and paint the piece if I removed the cabinet doors. I've tried painting over hinges. I just don't like the look of it, and the paint starts to wear off as you open and close the doors. But I've learned from experience that you absolutely must put the hinges back in the exact place it came from. Sometimes when you try to put hinges in different areas, the doors don't close properly. Don't ask me how I know that. So now they're all marked, so I know where to return them. This is my favorite primer. I've had it tinted a dark gray. It's filtered into my Erlex 5500, now the 5700. I filtered it, I thinned it with water, attached everything back together, and headed outdoors to spray. As you can see, since I took the cabinet doors off, I did put up some plastic so that I wouldn't get any overspray inside the piece. And then I started spraying. Now, if you watch, you'll notice that my wrist does not bend at all. It is very firm in place. I'm not swishing the sprayer back and forth. When you do that, you end up getting an excess of paint on the sides. So just release, spray, and keep your wrist locked in place. Now this piece, I actually had to sand and spray the backside. It came with coasters, and so if someone chooses to wheel this around as a bar, then they can do so and it'll be painted on all sides. This is the following morning and the primer looks amazing. It's really, really smooth. No dimpling, orange peel at all. So I'm getting ready to put on the second coat. I have already lightly sanded it with a very high grit pad and dusted it off. So I'm ready to go, and I'll do that second coat off camera. When I started working on this piece, I knew something I learned the hard way on a previous piece long ago, that I have to make sure that whatever paint I use is going to be completely cured before I sell it. Because you see how this piece comes down? It goes flat across the top, right? Well, I opened this just now, just to see, I don't know why, and sure enough, right here and right there, now I have texture. So I tried to smooth it out best I could, and then I spot sprayed that area, but I know, you know, I'm gonna have to wait until this dries and lightly sand that area. I just finished scuff sanding the whole piece just to smooth out that second coat of primer before I paint. And this is the area that got messed up when I opened the top, and it's all smooth now and ready to go. Now I'm using a brand new tack cloth, and I'm doing it very gingerly. These tack cloths, I like them a lot, but they're very, very sticky. And I have learned that if I press down real hard on a painted surface, it'll leave a waxy mark. So I'm hardly putting any pressure at all. The other alternative would be to wipe it with a damp cloth to get that dust off, but I don't want to do that because I want it dry for the paint. So I'm being very careful not to press down real hard. I'm trying to use a paint that I already have. I'm leaning toward Caviar or Cabbage Patch, and I think I'm going to use this Cabbage Patch. The paint is filtered. I've thinned it with water to help it come out of the sprayer in a fine mist that won't create an orange peel texture when it lands on the piece and dries. And I'm heading out to spray my first coat. I'm getting ready to put on a second coat of paint. It's been more than the required 16 hours. It's been about 24 hours since I sprayed this last, and it looks really good. I think I finally figured out the secret sauce as to how much to dilute the paint with water so that I don't get that orange peel texture. I probably put about 20% water. Now you can see in areas that I didn't get full coverage on that first spray, which is fine. You're not really expected to. You don't want to go so heavy that it drips. I'm going to go ahead off camera and spray the 2 drawers first like I did yesterday. Move them indoors, and then I'll do that second coat. No need to film it again. That second coat of the paint looks great. I've got great coverage. I don't really need to touch up anything except for the area that was hidden by the drawer being closed, and then some little elements underneath the top. Once you open it, there's the little place I need to paint. I'm going to set out to do that with a paintbrush. I'll just hand paint these areas here and where it needs to be. I have opened this, and when I lay it down, I can tell there's no tackiness. So I know now that this is dry enough for me to open the top up to paint these areas like in here. So, but I realized I made a really big boo-boo, kind of an amateur one. I got so anxious to start painting, I didn't consider what hardware I wanted to put on the drawer. And the existing hardware holes are 2 inches apart. What came with the piece is very dated. I don't want to put it back on there. But of course, I can't find anything other than adjustable hardware that will fit 2-inch existing holes. The adjustable hardware that I find would mean that they'd be so close together it would look ridiculous. If you've ever used it, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I've ordered something that might work. And then it was time to put everything back together. And as you'll notice, sometimes it takes me a few attempts to figure out how to reattach these hinges. There we go. I had to replace a couple of these on the drawers. And then I opened it up and started taking the plastic off. One of my biggest concerns was that paint would seep through the seam right here, and it did seep through. This is some 4-aught steel wool. Is that how you call it? 4-aught. Ooh, that's working. Ooh, all right. I took the hardware, I lined it up with this jig, and I figured out that this hole and this hole here are where the holes line up for this hardware. This hole I'm going to keep. I'm going to have to drill a new hole over here. This is where I would need to drill. Yeah, it's that one right there. So about 2 weeks have passed since I finished painting this. I was concerned about having a painted piece rest on top of a painted piece once these drawers were open, right? Because once open, they rest here. So sure enough, there was a long weekend away, and while I was gone, I thought, oh gosh, I left them open. And came home, I went to close them and I could hear snap on both sides. One side was fine, but this side did end up getting a mar in the paint. I had to lightly sand it to smooth it out. I touched it up with paint, you can't tell. So I did decide to put a poly on the top only, just to see if it would help prevent the sides from sticking when opened while the paint was still curing, or anytime for that matter. The 2 coats of poly on those top areas, those top surfaces, did the trick, because when I open and close them, there's no like tackiness that snaps when the 2 painted surfaces are pulled apart. So I'm very pleased. So all I have left to do is put on the knobs. I was going to use a different hardware, but it wasn't the same sheen of gold, so I had to go back to Amazon and order the knobs that went with those handles. I don't think those are the best choice for this piece. I don't really know if it matches in style, but it was the best way and the best choice to prevent me from having to plug up those holes and repaint and re-drill for something else. But these are really pretty. Pretty. So I'm going to put these on and then I'm done. So let's take a look at this piece before I started working on it and how it turned out in the end. Thanks so much for stopping by. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment to let me know what you think.